I did not receive an official diagnosis or even go for help with any of my shit until I was 36 last year. And it was then revealed to me that I am a man with bona fide ADD, ADHD, that is attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactive disorder, amongst other things. I like to refer to this poem, Pursepshunz, as my mental awareness poem. I used to refer to it as my mental wellness poem, my mental illness poem. It is an awareness poem. Because I am aware that when I wrote this poem, my brain felt itchy. Do let me digress and explain what it is, itchy brain. It feels as though inside my head, a nest of ants has cracked open, and they're on the march and they're on the move. And I can feel every one of their itty-bitty feet on their little bandy pairs of legs. And when I felt like this unknowingly, but instinctively, I would move myself into an environment that was full of motion, light, sight, and sound. Now, where can you get that at any given time of day? Public transit. Now, I was living in Toronto at the time, and some of the transit lines run 24/7. So on this particularly itchy brain day, I went out and I rode. I rode for 18 straight hours. I rode every direction, front, back, and lateral. I rode on both of the surfaces above and below. I was on the LRT. I was on the streetcars, the buses, the subways. I rode and I rode through the cars and through the stations. I was attempting to capture the scrolling life, the scrolling marquee that never repeated any one piece of scenery. This wasn't the story of me. It was the story in front of me, as I tried to poetically capture it during this state of hyperfocus. I tried to snapshot and sew together the stories, the seconds, the setups. That is the bulk of what Pursepshunz is. I don't know why I needed so much itchy, pardon me, so much noisy and so much busy when my brain was itchy. But I do know that when it was still and quiet, I'd have to move. And I don't remember the beginning of the day, but what I do know is that I had time. And time is very dangerous for people like me. People who are alcoholics, people who are addicts, people who have a lot of self-destructive behaviors. Because of what we do with that time and what we don't. But somehow this time, I curbed crashing into creativity. I don't know how, but this time, my brain wanted to do something healthy, and the only healthy thing I ever did was write poetry. Now, when it came to writing this poem, the transitions are the wheres, the actual physical wheres of it. This poem goes everywhere about everything, as did life right before my eyes. In this poetic carpe diem, I tried to capture everything I could to quell this itch that lasted 18 straight hours. And sooner or later, yes, the itching, it began to quell. And fatigue began to set in. And I began to come back to the real world. Now, where the hell am I? What station is this? What's going on? I gotta get home. And remember, some of these lines are 24/7, so I'm getting home. But this had to happen. I had to write this out. Now, the way I write Pursepshunz, I write it in a language I have dubbed Wake Speak. Wake speak is when I employ the parlance of my people, Ebonics, to write phonetically so as to perform this poem, passage, paragraph, part, anything in a particular way. I don't say slipped you, tripped you, then I jujitsu flipped you. Slipped you, tripped you, then I jujitsu, flipped you. As I clearly enunciate. This is wake speak. When you see it on the page, that is the writer giving the performer physical cues on how to perform this poetry. Now, when people ask, where can I find this poetry? I ask them to please not look for me in print. In my circle of poets and peers, I am absolutely the least published. And I believe it's because there's a loss of translation with what you read and what you hear. Actually, I believe that my words in print, that is the key factor to why I was so unsuccessful at university. After 2 years of classical performance piano, after 2 years of orchestral percussion, I decided to try my hand in the English poetry program. After 2 assignments, I received an email from my professor, and she said to me, your work is nonsense. Your work is garbage. Your work is gobbledygook. She couldn't even insult me like I was a grown adult. Very quickly, I was put on academic probation. And then very quickly, I failed out of York University. I believe that great translation loss means you should become familiar with the voice. Not just with mine, but any kind of voice you wish to experience when you actually read the words on the page. If you get familiar, then you can hear that voice with your inner ear. So when you look at my words, you may hear my voice and make that connection. I humbly refer to this as Morgan Freeman effect. ADD, ADHD, they may be your muses if you get to know how to work with your wiring, if you get to know your neurology. I love this poem, for I can proudly stand in front of my invisible communities, those of us that speckle the spectrum of neurodiversity. I love to say to all of you, I am just like you are just like me, and we are none of us ever alone. I also love to perform this poem because it's fun. It's full of typical Wakefield word wizardry. It's full of alphabetical acrobatics. And when I charge into the end of this poem with all of the catharsis that I am, I truly do believe that you may hear that vulnerable cry for help.